In this episode of Got Clutter, Get Organized, there is going to be a powerful example of why we should just stop multitasking. But today's focus is all about decluttering your mind. I can't wait until you hear that example of multitasking. It has changed the way I even think about multitasking, and I try not to. So just stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation. I'm excited because, you know, we have been focusing a lot on just decluttering the physical stuff, but sometimes we have to declutter our mind as well, which is why I put on an expert, Miss Anna Malinsky, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes,
And
thank you.
I, I am excited for her to be here because we are going to talk about that because I think when we start with decluttering our mind, it's so much easier just to get rid of the stuff, but that's just my opinion, which is why I brought on an expert. So, Anna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Janet. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, before we get started in, the impact of the mental clutter has on us, what made you decide to really focus on like the mindset as a coach?
Yes, thank you. So I chose to focus on mindset because that's really the foundation for lasting change. And it's important because it shapes how you think, then how you feel, and then how you act, ultimately because of it. So I've often seen how people struggle because of the way they speak to themselves, their limiting beliefs, the stories they tell themselves. So, working on your mindset can really go a long way to help with that mental clutter. Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
And when you said that, Anna, the first person I thought about is somebody I know, and they are an excellent event planner. But they always say, I'm not organized. And I'm like, but you are organized. And I said, because I can't do that. So that the thought
Right.
of entertaining or even planning an event just, you know, it makes me really scared and uncomfortable. I
Yeah.
says, but you do it effortlessly. So you're right. Those messages that we do give ourselves.
Yeah.
So, how does clutter really impact our mind and our mindset?
Yeah. Well, I like to think of it short but sweet, mess equals stress. Okay. So clutter can cause feelings of overwhelm, right? So the visual reminder of disorganization, it can trigger stress, it can trigger anxiety, and it makes it harder to focus because your brain has to work harder to filter out those distractions, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And no, I was going to say it made me think about something someone said. It was about clutter. It was really about just the overwhelm from the email, and exactly what you were saying about how it made them feel. And I think sometimes we don't really give it thought. It's like, okay, yeah, I got to deal with it, but actually, how is it impacting the way you feel and how you move forward? Because the first thing they said, I get anxious, I get overwhelmed, I get
Yes.
this, I get that. So you are right about that.
Yeah.
So thank.
I also, if I may, I'd like to mention that by clutter, I'm not just talking about physical clutter. Okay, I'm also talking about the mental clutter that we allow in every day. And that could be through social media, that can be through news consumption, that can be through toxic relationships. So the act of organizing your physical and mental clutter can go a long way and can be therapeutic. Yeah.
And you're right because I've learned that for me now I have to, even though I want to stay informed, but also I do it like in bite size. It's like I may do 10 minutes here and
Yeah.
maybe a few minutes later. And I'm also conscious of when I shut it down or stop. I
Yeah.
don't do it past a certain time because then you're getting into the nighttime and my sleep time because and so I do that. But you're right, you have to, because if you don't, then that is that clutter and those things like, oh my goodness, I'm overwhelmed and this is going on. I'm scared or
Yeah.
I'm anxious and things like that. So yeah, that is true.
Absolutely.
So how can someone either watching or listening, how can they really kind of start? Because the journey of really just kind of decluttering so that
Yeah.
they're not overwhelmed as we go through changes in, the months, the seasons, the year.
Yes, yes, yes. Excellent question. So, first, I would take an inventory. You can ask yourself, what is currently in my space or my mind that doesn't belong there,
Mhm.
right? And that could be unused items, that could be lingering tasks, that could be negative thoughts, right? And then you can ask yourself, what can I let go of that no longer serves me, right? So, eliminate the excess, right?
Mhm.
Another great thing to do is do a 5 minute mental dump. Take out a notepad or on a phone app, your notepad, and just write down everything swirling in your mind, your tasks, your ideas, your worries, your reminders. Don't censor it, just pour it all out. And what this does is it helps clear the mental space and it brings you some relief from that anxiety and stress because you're now externalizing those thoughts. They're no longer stuck here. Um,
Mm.
Another great one, turn off the digital distraction for a while. Put your phone on do not disturb for a period of time, or better yet, put your phone in another room where you can't hear it, you can't see the notifications popping up. Um, this helps to eliminate some of that input clutter that goes on. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, those I mean, there were so many different things. So the first thing
Yeah.
was about the task, and that is like a mental clutter because you're constantly. Sometimes you can see the task that needs to be done. It could be the laundry, or it could just be something else. But it's that thing that's constantly in your head. But also, I love what you shared about the mental, just the dump, the brain dump, and getting a pad or either your app. I like getting my pad out because I'm just a paper and pen
Yes.
person and just doing it. And it really helps you because there are times I tell people I wake up in the morning and it's like I got a hundred things just roaming around in my brain. And by just writing them down, it doesn't necessarily mean that I get them done, but at
Right.
least I've got it on a piece of paper and then I can decide when to do those things. And then, of course, the other thing that you said, the last was the digital, just the digital, putting the phone in another room on do not disturb, because that can help us as well. I mean, those constant notifications, because that's one of the things I share with people. Sometimes we have to turn off the notifications. I have no notifications on my phone. The only thing that comes through is a text or
Yes.
voicemail. Anything else, I can just get to it when I can get to it because it was that anxiety. It's like, oh, what is it? Who is it? And then you got to go, and specifically for the social media, then you got to go over to the platform, and then
Correct.
that can take you down a whole nother rabbit hole. So thank you so much for
Right.
those. So, so Anna, as you work with clients and your family and just your life, how do you stay organized? Whether it's your time, your space, or your life, what are some tips and strategies that you use?
Yeah. Sure. So, keeping clutter in mind, especially when managing a busy life with all the things that you just mentioned, it takes being intentional. So that's the
Okay.
key word, intentional. Me personally, I set some boundaries around input. So I limit unfiltered news consumption. I limit social media scrolling. Um, I also like to do one thing at a time. I try. So many people multitask, right? We're all trying to get everything done. Um, Multitasking is actually mental clutter disguised as productivity. Okay, if
Wow.
you yes, if you focus on one task at a time and give it your full attention, you can get it done quicker than if you're doing multiple things. And a
Hmm.
good example I like for this is numbers and ABCs, right? So if I ask you to count 1 to 26, you can do that fairly quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on.
Mhm.
And if I ask you to say your ABCs, you can do that fairly quickly. Most people can fairly quickly as well. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and
Mhm.
so on. Now I'm going to multitask. I'm going to say them alternating number and letter. A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F. Anyway, so you see that the more you continue, it's going to slow you down. So that's just an example of how multitasking can actually slow you down instead of helping you get things done quicker. So it's better to focus
Wow.
on one thing at a time and get that done. Give it your full attention and get that done. Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
a couple other things too. Mindfulness. I try to practice mindfulness when I can. We spend so much time in the past or the future in our minds that we miss the present moment. And this is the only moment that actually exists. So when you
Mm.
try mindfulness and stay more in the present moment, all that clutter of what happened in the past or what I should do in the future or what I did, it kind of disappears for a moment because you're here. You're
Mm.
here.
Wow.
And then the last thing I'll say is I've learned to say no without guilt, because mental clutter can build when we say yes to things out of obligation or the fear of disappointing others. So we can protect our clarity by setting gentle but firm boundaries around our time and energy.
Wow. You know, Anna, when you said that example about multitasking, I mean, I truly, like you, I try not to, you know, I try to stay focused on one thing. But
Right.
that example was just clear. It was like, yeah, because I was like, okay, I was with you with the one, two, three, the ABCs, but then you were really moving along. I was like, okay. So that is, wow. Well, that was a good example. And I hope those of you watching and listening heard that example about multitasking. But also, Anna, how can those watching and listening connect with you?
Sure. I have a website, annamalinskycoaching.com. I'm on Instagram, Anna Malinsky Coaching. You can look me up on LinkedIn as well. Email, annamalinskycoaching at gmail.com. So all those ways.
And of course, those of you watching, listening, I will have all that information in the show page notes so you can connect with Anna directly and get rid of your mental clutter. Let's declutter.
Let's
Anna, thank you so
declutter.
much. That's right. Let's declutter. And let's start with our mind first. Well, Anna, thank you so much for your time. It's greatly
Thank you so
appreciated.
much, Janet. It was a pleasure.